guys, welcome to the channel, and I'm very excited to be doing this build here. I decided last week when I did the tiny oasis build, which you should definitely check out. It's also a review of the tiny living stuff pack items, kind of, and more of my thoughts on it. But it kind of sparked an idea of maybe doing a series of tiny builds that are based or themed around the different worlds. And so far I've done Oasis Springs, and then I was like, oh, it'd be nice to go back to Sulani because it's been a while and it's, you know, super cold outside and I would rather be on the beach right now. So I was like, yeah, let's go back to Sulani, do a little island, beachy, you know, shack type of thing. It's not really a shack, it's a nice little beach cottage, I guess you could say. And yeah, I was like, yeah, it'd be a fun little series, which it's called a small series for obvious reasons. But yeah, so this build is on the lot Key Point, which is one of the secluded islands kind of in the north part of Sulani. I actually ended up getting rid of the off the grid lot trait, and you can by all means, you know, add it in if you download this lot, but I was kind of thinking of the sim that would live here, and I think that she would definitely be on the grid, or at least have some sort of alternative power source and have the ability to get internet. I put a satellite on the roof to kind of, you know, signify that idea, because this sim that I imagine living here, she's a loner, so she much prefers to be on her own here on her own little island, because she grew up on the mainland. She's a Sulani native, and she was just generally tired of the, you know, hustle and bustle of the mainland city. So she kind of, you know, decided to go and find her own little island. I imagine she's a professional surfer, or at least very good at it, and she fishes and sells the fish to the local market for a little extra money. Because of her professional surfing, or as a surfing influencer, I guess you could say, she's also on social media, so she makes a little money off of that too. So yeah, she's a really cool sim. I really enjoyed making her. She should be on the gallery, and she's a really cute sim. I think maybe I will keep this build and the sim in my never-ending world save that I'm working on, which is temporarily on hold as I work on the small series, doing little tiny builds. So the idea of the tiny build series, I want to stay within tier 2, which is which the game considers a tiny home. So anything above 32 tiles, I think, is considered a small home. So technically, if I needed to, I could also do what the game considers a small home, and that would still be part of the small series. But I do want to try and stay within tier 2 because it's a little more challenging. What I don't like is decks and foundations, or even if you put a foundation, like if you expand the roof so that way the roof is covered on the bottom, it still considers it as tiles, so it counts against your tile count, which I don't like, because if you don't do that underneath the roof, you have this hole underneath the roof if you look underneath it. So I always try to put a foundation underneath it just to, you know, make it a little more solid should you look up. But unfortunately I couldn't do that because I wanted to stay within the tier 2, like I said. So but yeah, so if I make a house that has a balcony or like multiple decks or something, and it becomes a small home, I would still consider it a tiny home, just because those outside areas aren't technically part, like they are part of the home, but they're not inside the home. So yeah. So this kitchen, I rearranged the kitchen quite a few times because I wasn't liking how the stove was right up against the window, and so I ended up taking out one of the windows so that way it was just on the wall. And I also wasn't liking the stove kind of in the island area because you could see the back of the stove, and there wasn't really any way to hide it. So yeah, but it worked out really well just moving it back to where it was on the back wall there and just having one window. I love these windows from Moschino. They were probably the best thing from that pack for me. I use them a lot, maybe too often. Another thing I love about this kitchen is the yellow fridge. I don't get to use the colored fridges very often, but I think it was kind of appropriate for this build, being that it's very beachy and bright and airy, and that's kind of how I thought of the Sim as well. Like, she probably is a little more trendy than your average, Sulani native, maybe, I don't know. I was just kind of thinking, since she's, some type of influencer, she would kind of have a cute, trendy space to live in. And this room up here is her bedroom, and it was really challenging just because of how small it is. I didn't want to I thought about using the Murphy bed again, but it didn't really make sense. Like, it took up the same amount of space as a regular bed, and it didn't really match the vibe that I wanted. So I was like, yeah, I'll just put a regular bed in here, which I ended up using the Sulani bed, which I think she would have, since this is part of her culture, and I think she would like something like that. But yeah, it's really just the bed, the dresser, and a rug. That's really all I could fit up here. Oh, and like a little plant stand in the corner, but that's pretty much it up here. I had some difficulty in the beginning as well because she wasn't routing correctly to the top part, so I had to add some staircases on the side. Also, I got to use my favorite rug in this build, which I don't get to use very often either, just because of how colorful it is. But it's this one from the Fitness Stuff, I think. Oh no, Seasons. I love it. It's so cute and stripy and bright, and I thought it fit this kitchen and her really well. This build is play tested, by the way. I was really worried about the little dining table, especially, but she can sit on there and everything works, and she routes to everything pretty well. One thing I did forget to put in this build was the Seasons umbrella little thing, but it's not too big of a deal. I wasn't too upset. What I was excited about was these little plant artwork that came with the tiny living, paired with the beach and the ocean base game artwork. It made this perfect little rectangle gallery wall, and that really made me happy. At this point, I was like, oh, I never put a bathroom in this build, and there's nowhere to put it. So all I did basically was add a little area on the side here. I guess it's technically the front of the lot, but just kind of in the back side of the house, I just kind of popped it out a little bit. I didn't sacrifice too many tiles. It was really just 2 extra tiles, which was awesome. And I was excited to use these little windows, the pop-out windows from Island Living. I thought that was really appropriate for a bathroom, because actually, not really related, but kind of, when I went to Iceland last September, I stayed in a little cabin that had these pop-out windows that let air in, but not too much, and it was very private, so that's what it reminded me of. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And I have to say, whoever decided to make a showerless shower head, meaning no walls, and you can put it on anything, thank you. I really love that shower, and I was really excited to use it. I thought about using this wooden tub, but I didn't think the style of it's actually kind of modern. I didn't think it was appropriate for this build, so I went with a classic concrete tub, or maybe it's just like faux concrete, so it looks kind of concrete, but it's a lot lighter. Especially, I would think, for this kind of build, you would need stuff that isn't too extremely heavy. Also, this tiny toilet from Tiny Living is so great. I thought that this wouldn't work in this placement, like up against the wall, but it's almost like a half tile footprint. I feel like it was still usable, and I had no problem getting her into the bathroom to use it. So I know it seems really cramped in there, but it definitely does work, so don't worry. Before starting this island living sulani beach house, I was thinking about doing something in San Myshuno, and I wasn't quite sure what to do because all the lots are really big, and a lot of the apartments are actually pretty big too, because I thought maybe I could do like a tiny studio apartment or something like that, but I may have to build that separately, like a room build kind of, to do a small studio. So I'm not really sure what to do there. I thought it would be kind of funny to do a tiny penthouse, but I don't know. It would just be like this small speck on a giant penthouse lot, so I don't really know what to do in San Myshuno. So if you have any ideas, definitely comment down below, as well as the next world that you would want to see a tiny build in. So yeah, let me know in the comments down below. And yeah, so these are actually skateboards, but when you size them up, they look very similar to surfboards, kind of. We will just pretend. But I actually have seen, I think Simlissy was the first one that I saw do that. I forget which build it is, but definitely Simlissy. If you haven't seen any of her videos, definitely check her out. And we actually did a collab together doing like a beach resort, which was really fun. But yeah, so if you haven't yet, are you under a rock? Because she's amazing. But yeah, she came up with, I think she came up with it, the surfboard trick. So now I'm going on to landscaping. I really wanted the little beach cottage to kind of feel like it was just placed here and nothing was really changed about the island, because I feel like it would be really important to this sim, especially to conserve her environment, to be sustainable and all of that. So I wanted it to feel very natural, and not a whole lot is here except the bare necessities and her little cottage. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this build. I really enjoy making these tiny homes. They're kind of a offshoot or a break from all the bigger builds that I'm building, and a break from my World Save series. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys had an excellent weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye, guys.